Good evening and welcome into Gordon Ball's conference call. My name's Frank Cagle. I'm a retired newspaper man. I'll be your moderator this evening. If you want to ask Gordon a question, you press 0 on your keypad and ask your question, and the operators will forward that to us, and Gordon will answer your questions, and we'd be happy to hear you. We've got, just remember to press 0, and then you can ask your question. And throughout the call tonight, we may do a couple of polling questions and get your responses to those as well. So this is all to help Gordon better understand what's on your mind out there and provide you with the information that you want. Are you there, Gordon?
I am, Frank. Good evening, and thank all of you for participating with us tonight. I think we can all agree that there are many issues facing our state and country that we need to discuss, and I think we probably all could agree that it would be better if we could debate with Lamar Alexander, but he refuses, so we've decided to come to you directly and in the format that we're doing so tonight.
Yeah. While we're waiting for some of the callers to get online and get their questions in, Lamar had an interview with Chattanooga paper. We was talking about how he's all about, well, first of all, if he gets reelected and the Republicans take over, he'll be chair of the Senate Health, Education, and Labor Committee. So he'll be writing all the Republican legislation about Common Core and charter schools and vouchers. And he's stressing the fact that everything will be voluntary. Whatever the states want to do, it'll be voluntary. Gordon, I know you've talked to me before about voluntary Common Core standards. What's your reaction to that?
Well, as we all know, that the situation is as in the state of Tennessee as we speak is that Governor Haslam accepted the money from the federal government with a wink and a nod that we would also accept Common Core and Common Core
race to the top bribe.
right, and the race to the top drive, and Common Core is as I've seen in traveling the state for the last 6 months, I have yet to talk to the first teacher that would approve Common Core or likes Common Core, and clearly, Common Core is just basically a national standardization of our educational system, and quite frankly, and no pun intended, will result in the taking over of our educational system by the federal government. And
so do you think the same thing will happen with like vouchers, where they'll offer some money to get everybody to sign up for it, and then they'll put it back, and we'll all be stuck with it? Or
I do, and I'm a huge believer in public education. If it weren't, Frank, for public education, you and I wouldn't be having this discussion tonight.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Absolutely, and
you'd still be over there making moonshine in Cotton County, wouldn't you?
With my dad, but a couple of years ago, Senator Alexander introduced a bill that would take 17% of the money from public education and give it to vouchers. And if I'm opposed to vouchers, and if we had vouchers, every little place in the state would be setting up private schools and taking all the money away from public education. And I'm a firm believer that should not be done. So
yeah, I want to remind everybody, if you're just getting on the call, you press 0 if you want to ask a question, and we'll relay that to Gordon. So just whatever you got on your mind, Gordon wants to know, and go ahead and do that. And as the questions come in, we'll have Gordon answer them. Gordon, we were talking about education in general, but the thing about these vouchers, how do you control who gets them? I mean, aside from we're taking all the money away from public education, how do we know these schools are valid, or I mean, they're not?
Well, actually,
schools,
I don't think we would, Frank. That therein lies the problem, and it was really interesting to me. A couple of weeks ago, there was a huge protest in Nashville against Common Core, and I attended the protest and actually protested against Common Core. But the day before the protest, I called one of the fellow that I know who is an administrator for a Webb School in Knoxville, and the same school where I think Bill Haslam went to school, and maybe
I believe he did. I don't know if he was ever in a public school, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know that. I don't one way or the other, but I talked to the headmaster, who's a friend of mine, and I asked him, I said, what are the private schools in the state of Tennessee doing concerning Common Core? And he said, we're not going to do it. We don't believe in it, and we think we can do better. And clearly, to me, if it's not good enough for the private schools in this state, it shouldn't be good enough for the public schools.
Yeah.
And
we
don't need. Go ahead.
I'm sure we're going to come back to this issue because I know there are more people going to get on and want to talk about it. Let's get some of the questions in. We've got Madeline from Graysville, and she wants to know. Wait a minute. How about Governor Haslam not accepting the Medicare or Medicaid expansion?
Well,
how do you feel about that?
I don't understand, Madeline, why Governor Haslam is not accepting the Medicaid expansion. There are 163,000 people who are in dire need, and I don't understand why he's not. He has not given us any reason why he has not done it. He keeps telling us that he's trying to work things out with the federal government, and it's been almost a year and a half. We've lost $2 trillion. I was in Brownsville,
I
Tennessee.
think it's more like $1 billion, but yeah, go ahead.
Did I say trillion? I'm sorry. $2 billion, but that's still a lot of money, Frank.
It is. It's more than I know about. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in serious danger of having rural hospitals close. And in fact, I was in Brownsville, Tennessee, this summer when a rural hospital did close because Governor Haslam has not accepted Medicaid expansion. And
well, Gordon, we can talk about any one of these things all night, but people are backing up wanting to answer questions, so we're going to try to move along. We've got a question about gun control. Why do you want Obama to come grab your Glock, Gordon?
Well, I don't. I
just want to point out that the NRA, you don't think they would suck up to an incumbent senator and give you a bad grade, do you?
Well, Frank, as you know, I'm the son of a moonshiner from Cocke County, Tennessee, who grew up in a one-bedroom trailer, and we had guns in every bedroom. And I have a Glock next to my bedstand, and I have 2 shotguns in the closet. But I did receive a bad rating from the NRA, and I think I got an F, and I clearly believe it's only because I had a D in front of my name, and
it could be, yeah.
Yeah, but and I know that Lamar Alexander does receive money from the NRA.
Yeah. There's some discussion about repeating the hall tax. Well, they have reduced the hall tax in Tennessee, and John from Jacksboro wants to know what your position is on that. Of course, it's a state issue, not a federal, but it is a state issue. Insight into your views about taxes, but
it is a state issue, and clearly we don't have an income tax other than the hall tax, and it is a form of an income tax, and I agree that it should be repealed.
Yeah. Just remember out there, folks, if you just joined the call, if you want to ask a question, you just press 0 on your keypad and you ask your question, and the operators will forward that question to us, and we'll let Gordon answer it.
And Frank, I'll try to keep my answers short and
well, I know you want to explain, things, and you don't want to be a bumper sticker, but we're trying to get as many people in as we can.
I know.
James from La Follette, your stance on Social Security.
My stance on Social. Go ahead.
I think you're for it.
No, my stance on Social Security is that I would never do anything to harm Social Security, and it's a system that has served us well for many, many years, and we've all paid into it, and I'm ready to take advantage of it, and I know you are, Frank, and many of our listeners are, and I would never do anything to harm Social Security.
Yeah. I think a lot of our listeners, probably our callers, came in after some of that discussion earlier, but we've had some questions about taxes in general. What do you think about tax reform?
Well, I think we're going to have to reform our tax system. I don't think there's any question about that, and it's going to be a long, hard debate. But I think we need to do away with the income tax and go to another tax of some sort that will be fair and equitable to everyone, and allow us to close these corporate loopholes that allow companies to make money offshore and keep it offshore, and it not be taxed.
You mean like Apple keeping all their money in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean it's just unbelievable that we have maybe $300 trillion just sitting offshore that could come back into our economy and be taxed. And so I think we're really going to have to take a long, hard look and reform our tax system in this country.
Yeah. We want to put out one of our poll questions here. You can answer that. It's here in Tennessee, do you think we're headed in the right direction? Are we on the wrong track? Press 1 for right direction, 2 for wrong track, and 3 if you're not sure. We'll poll these, we'll compile these, and that way Gordon will know how you feel about things. But do you think we're headed in the right direction, or are we on the wrong track? 1 for right direction, and 2 for wrong track, and 3 if you're not sure. We had a question, Gordon, I'm sorry I missed the caller's name, about keeping Tennessee a right-to-work state. How do you feel about that?
I think the right-to-work law has served us well in this state. I believe we should be an at-will state, and I believe that we've done well with that law, and I think it should remain intact. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions about this, and I think we've got a lot of people on tonight. This is a good time to talk about it. Carl from Bolivar raises a question about immigration. What can we do about the immigration problem and the millions of illegal aliens we've got? Well, actually, I'm speaking to the Tennessee Farm Bureau next week, and one of their big issues is that they have a stable workforce in agriculture, and so I don't believe in amnesty. I don't believe that a person should break our laws and come into our country and then be rewarded. But with that said, we've got probably 12 million undocumented people working in this country, and it would decimate certain areas of our economy if we tried to round 12 million people up and send them home, even if we could. And with that said,
Lamar voted for a path to citizenship for these people.
Right.
do you think they ought to be granted the rights of an American citizen?
No, here's what I think. I think we should find those people, register them, and make them pay taxes, make them, learn English, and get at the back of the line, and not be able to jump in front of anyone, and for citizenship. But
yeah.
I just don't think you reward people like that. But we've also got to realize they are somewhat very valuable to certain areas of our economy.
Yeah. A work permit or green card, I mean, that's one thing, but...
right, and
yeah,
you've got to be very flexible in that. But that's different from citizenship, and that's some of the things that we need to look at, and certainly a very flexible situation so those people can come and work here, and we need those people for instance in agriculture.
Yeah. There's there's an AP story this morning about how Alexander's campaign has started running, pretty tough ads against you, and
right.
They're actually using your name, unlike their primary opponent. They seem to be afraid of something.
Well,
what's your reaction to that?
Well, it's really interesting, and I'm glad they're using my name. I mean, obviously they're not telling the truth, but at least they're using my name, and I'm not nearly as well known as Lamar Alexander, and he's a career politician. He's been in office almost continuously for the last 40 years, and so it helps our name recognition. It would be good if he would tell the truth, but obviously he's not going to do that. So it's a free country, I guess. When you get in a political race, you expect things like this.
Well, here's a hot question. We'll pick at random here. There's several people have asked it, but Mary from Jackson, how can we fix Obamacare? Can we repeal it? Can we improve it? What can we do with Obamacare?
I don't think it's going to be repealed, and there's some good things in Obamacare, like doing away with pre-existing conditions, for example, and the idea of insuring as many people as we can is a good idea. But at the end of the day, the other part is we have not addressed how we pay for it, and one of the things that I would like to see is making the insurance companies actually compete on price for health insurance. And that's not something...
Are you challenging the insurance monopoly, Gordon? What are you talking about?
Absolutely, and that's not something they do. They don't compete on price, and they have an exemption from the antitrust laws. So that would be the first thing I would do when I'm elected to the United States Senate, is to introduce a bill to make the insurance companies compete like everybody else has to do.
I know you've told me in the past you're concerned about how Medicare and Medicaid can't negotiate. I mean, they're the biggest drug buyers in America, but they can't negotiate. Congress says they have to pay retail.
which makes no sense, which makes absolutely no sense. And the consumer, at the end of the day, and the people that are paying for insurance are the ones to suffer from that. Yeah.
Let's just reiterate, with people getting on and off all the time, but Ashley, June wants to know, Lamar keeps talking about how you don't like guns and how you feel about guns. I know you've answered that, but for the people who are just getting on, I mean, that's important to a lot of Tennesseans.
It is important.
I got a gun case full just like you do.
Yeah, I'm a believer in the Second Amendment, and I support it. I mean, I don't know how else I can say it, how many more times I say it. I grew up in Cott County with a gun in every bedroom. Of course, we only had one bedroom, but I have.
And you couldn't afford more than one gun.
I couldn't afford more than one gun. Yeah, and my dad had guns. We hunted, and I have a Glock next to my bed, and a couple of shotguns. So no, I support the Second Amendment, and for me to get an F from the NRA for not filling out a form is ridiculous.
Yeah. Mildred from Oak Ridge asks how we can get stuff back to being made in America. Is there something about the tariffs or the tax laws or something we could do to get people to build stuff in America and create jobs?
Well, I think that you're seeing, and as we all saw, that in the last 4 or 5 years, there was a tremendous movement to outsource things and outsource manufacturing jobs and take manufacturing jobs overseas. But a lot of companies, I think, are seeing that their costs and their security, the costs are higher of actually bringing the goods back to the United States. The costs are higher, and their security is not as good. So hopefully that will turn around some. But I don't think we're ever going to get back to a total manufacturing society anymore. So that only emphasizes why we have to have a great educational system.
Yeah.
Because jobs are never going to be the same.
Right. Let's get another poll question in here. How would you rate the performance of current U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander? 1 for excellent, 2 for good, 3 for fair, 4 for poor, and 5, he should have been fired a long time ago. A little editorial comment there at the end. But if you vote on the poll question, go to your keypad. 1 for excellent, 2 for good, 3 for fair, 4 for poor, 5 for should have been fired. How do you rate the performance of current U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander? Doris in Manchester wants to know how long you plan to hang around up there in the Senate, Gordon.
Well, Doris, I don't know if you've ever seen me or maybe on TV or whatever, but I'm 65 years old, so I don't plan on hanging around too long other than, Lamar Alexander in his book said that you should serve 2 terms and get out, and that's if I'm elected to 1 term, I might try another term, but no more than 2 terms, because I believe what Lamar Alexander said once, but no longer believes in.
That you serve 2 terms and go home, huh?
Right. I believe in term limits, and I believe in term limits for everybody, and I wish that someday this country would have those. We have them for the president, but we don't have them for the United States Senate.
Yeah. We've got Wanda from Clark Range. She wants to know a little bit more about your background and your qualification to be senator. Talk a little bit about your legal work and what you've been involved in, environmental legislation and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I started, of course, I worked my way through college and law school by loading trucks and delivering pizzas and that kind of thing. And in 1975, I opened my first law office in Newport, Tennessee, and my rent was $37 a month. And so from there, I've been blessed. I've been able to try cases all over the country in probably 25 or 30 different states. And I've been able to represent people in river pollution cases, and especially the Pigeon River in my home county, and for 25 years we've been doing that.
For the people out in West Tennessee, Gordon, the Pigeon River runs from North Carolina into Tennessee, and there's a paper mill over there. Been polluting it for 100 years, and Gordon's been fighting them and getting them fined and trying to do something to clean up the river. And it's better than it was. And
we've come a long way in cleaning up that river, and now I represent people in cases around the country. A few years ago, we represented every hospital in the United States, and because the makers of hospital beds were fixing prices on hospital beds. We represented the Jewish Holocaust victims when we sued the Swiss banks a few years ago.
You know, also, I mean, you were a delegate to the Constitutional Convention back in, what was that, 78?
Oh, 1970.
So you've had experience in
1977.
government and writing law and all that. So
well, we have,
like
and over the years, and I think I bring a lot to the table because I've been able to represent people all these years, and negotiating settlements and negotiating situations where people were very adversarial to each other. So I do think that I bring a lot to the table with maturity and the ability to negotiate.
Okay. Bonnie from Portland wants to know what your views are on mountaintop mining, where they take the tops off the mountains to
well,
coal.
I'm opposed to mountaintop mining, I think, and I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know a lot about that. I really wouldn't even consider myself anywhere close to being an expert on that. But from what little I know about it, I would be opposed to it.
Yeah. Well, it could be that Mitch McConnell, where they mountaintop mine all over eastern Kentucky, and Senator Alexander's friend, probably is for mountaintop mining. I don't need to editorialize on here. This is your platform,
really, Frank,
I'm sorry.
I don't know what mountaintop, whether Senator McConnell and Senator Alexander are for that or oppose it. That's, but that's a good question. And I know they do it in Campbell County, and at least I'm told that. And so that's something I really need to look into.
Yeah. Let's see. David from Chattanooga wants to know if you have any ideas about how to help small business.
Well, David, I think that the small businesses in the state actually drive this state, and we need to be very protective of our small businesses and help them in every way we possibly can. I think that we need to be able to educate our children, and so they can go into small businesses and thrive. So if there's anything, I don't know of any specific legislation that would help them at this point in time more than others.
What about the inheritance tax? A lot of times these small businesses, the kids want to carry it on, and but the
let me say about that. I am in favor of repealing the estate tax or the inheritance tax. I do know about that, and it stands, I believe, now at $5-point-something million, and a lot of farm families and a lot of families and small businesses would have to sell their businesses to pay the taxes if when someone dies. So I'm in favor of repealing the estate tax. Always have been.
Lawrence from Lebanon wants to know, really, what's the difference between you and Lamar? What would be different if you were the senator instead of Lamar?
Well, Lamar and I differ on many things, and that's one of the reasons I'm running, because I am not Lamar Alexander. I believe in a minimum wage. I believe that it's almost impossible for someone to live on $7.25 an hour, and Lamar would abolish the minimum wage. I believe in equal pay for women for equal work. Lamar does not. He voted against it. I believe in giving our students a break on their student loans and reducing, allowing them to refinance their loans.
Paul from East Ridge wants to know about that. about maybe refinancing student loans or what could be done on that.
Well, there was a bill that was brought up to at least to try to get to the floor of the Senate that would have allowed students to refinance their loan. A lot of students are paying 8 and 9% on their loan, and Lamar Alexander refused to even debate it, to debate the issue. And I think if we can, bail out Wall Street, we should be able to bail out our kids. And it's amazing to me that a bank can borrow money for less than 0.5% from another bank, but our kids are paying 8 and 9% on their loans.
Go down and put some money in your savings account and ask them what interest they're going to pay you.
I mean, you won't get 0.5%.
You sort of answered this, but Russell from Cookville was asking about the minimum wage. Expand on that if you would. I mean, there's so many people in Tennessee who are working at that rate.
I think there's 117,000 people in this state, Russell, that actually depend and make the minimum wage, and we're the highest. We're the number one state in the country for that, and I would raise that to $10.10 an hour, and Australia, Sweden, a lot of other countries have much higher minimum wages than we do. And think about this. 77% of our economy is consumer spending. And those people that are on minimum wage are going to spend every dollar that they get. They have to. And that's only going to increase our economy and make more jobs. And at the end of the day, it's just a question of simple fairness. Since the last minimum wage raise, which Lamar Alexander voted for, by the way, since the last minimum wage increase, the price of a McDonald's hamburger has gone up 32 times. So to me, it's just a question of fairness.
Right. Well, let's get another poll question in here while we can. Based on what you've heard tonight, will you vote for Gordon Ball or Lamar Alexander for the Senate? Press 1 for Gordon, press 2 for Lamar, 3 if you're undecided. That's on your keypad. Based on what you've heard tonight, will you vote for Gordon? Press 1. Lamar Alexander, press 2. Press 3 if you're undecided. That'll help us kind of get a gauge of what people are thinking out there. Let's see. We've got so many good questions. I'm trying to. We've got several questions about immigration, of course, but a lot of the concern a lot of people have is closing the border. How do you feel about that?
Closing the border?
Yeah. Well, the people flooding into the country on the border.
I think clearly we've got to guard our borders, and it's not only a question of jobs. It's a question of security, and we're going to have to live. We've had to live for the last few years with terrorism, and we've got to be ever vigilant and on our guard to stop terrorism from ever getting back in our country as it did in 9/11. And so it's a matter of security, and we've got to guard and protect our borders. And quite frankly, the northern border as well as the southern border.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've also got a problem. We've got these diseases popping up. We've got children with these polio-like symptoms and Ebola and all that. So, yeah. I just want to remind everybody that if you want to ask a question, which will relate to Gordon, you press 0 on your keypad to ask your question, and the operators will forward that to us. We've got some people who come on since we started, Gordon, who've been asking some more questions about Common Core. that seems to be something that concerns, especially the teachers out there and a lot of the parents. If you could go through that again,
well, I can, Frank, and it should concern every teacher and every parent. And I think what is happening in this state is that when the governor a few years ago announced that race to the top, and we were going to get so much money and in this state, and we did.
And all we had to do was adopt Common Core.
And all we had to do is wink and nod and adopt Common Core. That all sounded good, and finally some Republican legislators and Democratic legislators woke up and said, this is just not working. And now the governor's trying to backpedal. Lamar Alexander's trying to backpedal, and we're going to re-examine Common Core. And I think we're going to see that what it is just an attempt, like Lamar Alexander and Chris Whittle tried to do, was back in the 80s and 90s, and that's privatize the educational system in this country. And I'm opposed to it. And very rarely do I stand. I don't know that I've ever stood for anything that the Koch brothers were for, but they're opposed to Common Core too. So
yeah, well, I think a lot of teachers are concerned too about the speed. Some of the questions we've had from some of the teachers tonight have been about they're trying to do it too quickly and nobody knows what it is. And
the teachers are evaluated in some instances. The teachers are evaluated themselves by a system where they may not even teach that child. And so it's just really an unfair system for the teachers, and it's a system that is ultimately not good for the kids. And what we really need to do in Tennessee is establish our own standards for Tennessee with an eye towards a national standard. And that's what we need to do, and keep state control and local control of our school systems. Yeah.
Linda from Manchester is worried about senior citizens. I mean, they got a lot of concerns these days, what with Social Security and Medicare and Obamacare and whatever care.
Well, I don't think.
Just talk to a little bit about Social Security and what you think about it.
Well, I firmly believe that Social Security will be around forever, and when I'm a United States Senator, I'll do everything to make sure that it will be. We've paid in, and I say we because I'm 65, and we've paid in, and we deserve those benefits, and that's what it was there for our retirement. And so I will be a strong advocate for senior citizens and Social Security, especially since I am one.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah.
Well, I assume constituent service will be important as a senator. Tell people they got problems with their.
It really will for me, because that's something that our United States senators, at least my perception, is that they have not done. Our congressmen usually have great constituency service, but our senators seem not to do that, and I will have a great office, and my office will always be open to any constituent, and so I'll be back in Tennessee on the weekends.
Mm-hmm. So you won't be hanging around the Hayes
Washington?
Hotel?
No, I've been to Washington, so I don't need to spend a lot of time up there.
Yeah. Gina had a good question from Gina from Maynardville, and she wants to know about expanding the internet out to rural counties. You think that would be a good thing to do? And
I was in Jackson, Tennessee the other day, and Jackson is one of the first areas to do broadband out in the rural areas, and it's broadband is really a necessity because you've got to have that kind of expansion in the rural areas if you're ever going to have economic growth. And so I'm totally behind expanding broadband into all areas of the state of Tennessee.
Well, in the schools too, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I don't understand, and I've never understood. We've got Dell computers in Tennessee. Why didn't the United States Senator or our governor go to Dell and say, look, you have come into our state. You avail yourself of our state. Now, give us used computers that you've reconditioned for every child in this state, and help us with money to pay teachers to train these children.
Right.
You know, and instead of having maybe 10 computers for 200 kids. I mean,
it's going to be hard for them to compete, isn't it?
Well, it is, and if a company like Dell is a good corporate citizen, why shouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't they help us?
Betty in Camden wants to know, how do you feel about candidates who get all this money from out of state and all these out of state PACs and Washington special interests?
Well, I guess if I got all that money, I would probably be in favor of it, maybe. But actually, I wouldn't be. But I don't get any of it. And if you look at Lamar Alexander's campaign contributions, 95% are from PACs out of state, and we haven't received very much at all, and so actually I would be in favor of a law that says if you can't vote for me, you can't contribute, and that would mean that only people in the state of Tennessee could contribute, and that would mean that Tennesseans would be actually electing their senators or their representatives instead of a PAC somewhere in California spending $5 million.
This Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court, where the businesses, corporations can contribute money, that's kind of opened the floodgates, hasn't it?
It's more than opened the floodgates. It's broken the dam, and now, quite frankly, even judicial races, legislative races, corporations or companies can just give as much money as they want to give. The United States Supreme Court says corporations are individuals and citizens, and should be treated the same way. So one person can come in and give as much as he wants and absolutely buy an election. That's what happened.
We want to get another polling question here. We want to know what people think their priorities. We want you to tell Gordon what you think is the most important thing to do. You press 1, work to create jobs. Press 2 to secure the border and make sure we have a stronger economy. Press 3 to make sure that Tennessee gets its fair share of federal funds. Press 4 for improve our education system so our kids are better prepared. Let me run through those again. You press 1, work to create jobs. Press 2, secure the border. Press 3, make sure Tennessee gets its share of federal funds. Press 4, improve our education system. So that's your choices there in the poll, and we'll compile all this, at the end of the day, and let Gordon look at it and give him some direction on what you're actually feeling out there.
Right.
What issues are more important to you? Here's an interesting question here, Gordon. Patricia from Crossville wants to know what exactly has Lamar done for the good of Tennessee in his last term?
Well, Patricia,
maybe she should ask Lamar that. I don't.
I actually, in his last term, he resigned his leadership role in the Republican Party, and he passed the fishing under dams bill, and
yeah, that was a real critical issue, wasn't it?
Well, I mean,
guys fishing too close to the dam.
And I don't mean to laugh about that. I don't mean to laugh about
no,
that, folks.
No, it's a dangerous thing. Yeah.
If you're a fisherman and you want to fish under a dam, I guess it's really very important. But in the great scheme of things, Lamar has just been a placeholder in the last 6 years.
Well, we've got some. I just want to throw in a question. This is personally my question here, Gordon. But what has Harry Reid and Obama? I mean, that's the big thing Lamar's got in his ads. What are Harry Reid and Obama doing to help you get elected? I mean, are they trying to defeat Lamar Alexander because he's such a firm conservative voice up there for Tennessee?
I don't think so. I've never met President Obama, nor have I ever spoken to him, nor have I ever spoken to anyone in his administration concerning this race. And the day I picked up my petition in Knoxville, Tennessee, I made the statement to the press that I believe that Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Lamar Alexander were the problem in this country, and that they needed to, people like that, career politicians, need to come home and let other people do this. And so I'm not a Harry Reid fan, and I've made the statement that I would not vote for Harry Reid to be the majority leader when I'm elected to the United States Senate.
Well, that might be why the DNC hasn't sent you any money.
Well, and I don't think the
other
DNC
than not wanting to defeat Senator Alexander.
Yeah, so I think we'll try to be competitive without the DCCC.
Yeah. Mary from Lookout Mountain has a question about wind and solar energy. Do you think those are viable alternatives, and what could we do to...
I do, Marion. I think what we really have to do in this country is to have a comprehensive energy plan, and I don't think we have one. And I think we should have a plan that encompasses wind energy, solar energy, nuclear energy, and with the idea that in 25 years that we are going to be totally independent and not dependent on any other country, and especially the Middle East, for energy. And that's just crucial. That's just crucial that we.
Well, now I think it was President Nixon promised us energy independence. Let's see, when was that?
Well, that was a long time ago.
I think every president since then has promised us energy independence.
Energy independence, and look where we are. So,
yeah.
But we have done better in the last couple of years. So.
Yeah, well, we had some questions like Ledger from Whitwell asking about the EPA, and you might expand on that a little bit about the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, and getting that oil out of North Dakota and making us energy independent.
Well, I think that would be part of what I was just talking about, and I think we should build the Keystone Pipeline as part of our energy plan, and also in the short term it gives us a lot of jobs, and in the long term it gives us jobs. And I know there's some environmental concerns over that, but think about this. There's millions of miles of oil pipeline in this country, and I can't remember the last problem we've had with any of those pipelines.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if we don't use that oil from Canada, then that oil is going to be sold somewhere else, and probably to China.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's the Keystone Pipeline is a win-win situation.
Yeah. We're getting on down toward the end of the program, but we want to make sure we get everybody's question in. The lawyer from Chattanooga, how are you going to create a positive exposure since Lamar keeps running all these negative ads? She wants to explain your NRAF again. With people coming in and out on the call, but you talked about that, but it wouldn't hurt to say it again.
Well, Gloria, let me answer the back part of that, the second part of that question. The NRAF. We talked about this earlier, but my father was a moonshiner in Cocke County, and I grew up in a one-bedroom trailer, and we always had guns. I have guns in my home, and I don't know how to explain an F rating for a fellow that owns a Glock and has 2 shotguns in his house, and actually does use them. And so I think the reason I got an F from the NRA, they said, but that it was that I didn't fill out their form. I never got their form, but above and beyond that, I think the real reason is I happen to have a D in front of my name. And Lamar has an R in front of his name, and he receives PAC money from the NRA. So, and how am I going to combat the negative ads? I think that cuts 2 ways for Lamar Alexander, quite frankly. He has 100% name recognition, and my name recognition is probably around 60 to 70%, and he
considering his vote in the primary, maybe his name recognition is not all that good thing.
Well, I guess
he didn't get 50%.
We should talk about that. But he didn't carry his home county in the primary, and he lost 29 counties in the state of Tennessee in his own primary. So I think what Lamar is trying to do is Lamar cannot get above 46, 47%, no matter how much money he spends. So he's attacking me to keep my numbers down. And, we'll be on TV. We won't be able to match his money. We won't have as many commercials. But I don't have his 40-year voting record either.
Well, I don't know if all these people tonight will ever have an opportunity to call in and ask Senator Alexander questions either, like you're willing to do. Let's just do this
I don't think Lamar Alexander will ever do that.
No, I don't either. Let's ask this poll question one more time, based on what you've heard tonight. If you're voting today, would you vote for Gordon Ball or Lamar Alexander? Press 1 for Gordon, 2 for Lamar, 3 if you're undecided. And we'd appreciate your participation in this, and this kind of helps Gordon know what you're feeling out there and what you're thinking about. And
let me
got
say
all
one
these
thing,
questions.
Frank.
Excuse me? Go ahead.
No, I want to say one thing, and it just crossed my mind, and is that no matter how vicious Lamar Alexander's attacks are against me in the next month, and I never intend to attack him personally. I would never do that. He's a fine man, but I will attack his record, but I would never attack him personally.
Yeah. Amy from Brentwood wants to know about your stance with Israel. How do you feel about America's support for Israel? And
well, I don't know if Amy was on, and I briefly mentioned it. Actually, I was one of the lawyers who helped secure the Jewish Holocaust victims' damages against the Swiss banks for the Swiss banks' participation in the Holocaust. And so I'm a strong supporter of Israel, and we should always defend Israel. But with that said, we should always we should always make our own decisions, and hopefully Israel will follow us in policy in the Middle East without going out on their own. But they should have the right to defend themselves. But I think our interests will always be aligned with Israel.
Yeah. There's certainly strong ties, especially among conservative church members in this country.
Well, there's no question, and there's absolutely no question, and I'm a strong supporter of Israel's policies.
Yeah. The follow-up on that was about, are you for, let's see, Rita from Kingston wants to know, are you for term limits? You mentioned that earlier, but let's give Rita an answer.
I am, Rita, and I've said from day one that I agree with what Lamar Alexander wrote in his book in 1998 or 99, and he said you should serve 2 terms and get out, and I agree with that. And obviously he doesn't believe what he wrote back then, and has changed his mind. But I believe if we can have term limits for the President of the United States, then we should have term limits for the United States Senate and Congress and our representatives.
Yeah. Ralph from Maynardville is checking in, and he's raised this question again. You've talked about it before, but I think it's really important about the minimum wage and whether you think it's fair that they could be raised, especially for older people who are working to supplement their Social Security. This guy's 56 and he's having to work, got some illness. So,
Ralph, I do, and I think it's a total question of fairness, and we have a huge gap in disparity from the top to the bottom in income in this country, and I don't believe that a person can actually, for example, be a single parent and survive on $7.25 an hour. And pay everything that they need to pay to raise one child.
Yeah.
So
I
believe it should be increased.
And I wanted you to have a few minutes at the end here to kind of wrap up. We only got 2 or 3 minutes. Anything you want to say to the folks out there? We've got several thousand people on the line here, so this is your chance. Lamar's going to probably spend $10 million on TV ads. So go ahead and give us your best commercial.
Yeah, thanks, Frank, and thank all of you for tuning in tonight and listening to us and asking the questions that you've asked. I think that in the next month, as Frank says, that Mr. Alexander will spend millions of dollars on TV ads and telling you how bad I am, and really, when it comes down to it, I'm a country lawyer from Newport, Tennessee, and that's really pretty much all I'd ever wanted to be. But I think I won't change in Washington, D.C. I'm tired of people going up there and fighting with each other and not getting anything done. I don't know that I'll be able to change things, but I'm sure going to try. And I think if you, like I do, want to change things in Washington, we've got to change the people in Washington. And Senator Alexander is a career politician, and he's been there for 40 years and in one form or another. And I don't see, quite frankly, much he's done in the last 12 years in the United States Senate. And I want to replace him, and I want you to understand that I will always, from Mountain City to Memphis, keep in mind, when I vote, I'll keep in mind what it means to everyday citizens back in Tennessee. And I want to thank you for calling in tonight. And with that, Frank, I guess we're finished.
You got a website, don't you, Gordon? You know what it is?
I do. I'm not the greatest on the internet, but
yeah.
It's GordonBallForSenate.com.
Okay, everybody go there and read stuff and make a contribution, whatever. So we thank you all, and good night to you, and great job, Gordon.
Good night.
And we'll look
Thanks,
forward
Frank.
to the rest
You
of the
too.
campaign. Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Bye-bye.